Am I the a-hole for refusing to clock out early so my coworker can take her kid to the hospital? I 31 female carpool to work every day with 4 coworkers. We all live about an hour away from the office and have been carpooling ever since they forced us back to full-time in person so that we could share commuting expenses, gas and tolls. One of my coworkers, let's call her S, has a young child who recently got very sick. For the last few days he's been having constant nosebleeds so bad that he's even gone through an entire roll of toilet paper trying to stop the bleeding. Last Sunday night it got so bad that they took him to the hospital. On Monday she still came to work as usual and didn't mention anything about it until we were all driving home. That's when she told us she hadn't asked her boss for time off to take her kid to the hospital because she didn't think she would be allowed. She also said that if she doesn't get him seen soon, he could die. She asked if the next day we could all take her car instead of the usual drivers, let's call him A, and if everyone could clock out at 4:45 instead of 5:30. 5:30 is when A and I normally finish, the other 3 clock out at 5. We told her we'd think about it and would need to clear it with our managers. After talking it over, A and I decided we would just find another ride home so S could leave whenever she needed. The plan was, she would drive her own car to work, we'd all ride with her in the morning, and then in the afternoon A and I would get a ride with someone else so she could go straight home and get her kid to the doctor. When A called her later on that night to explain this plan to her, she got furious. She accused us of being heartless and not caring about her child, said, "What goes around comes around," and then dramatically announced she would just reschedule the doctor's appointment so it wouldn't inconvenience us, even though we never asked her to do that. And even though she had just told us an hour before that her son's nosebleeds haven't stopped and he could literally die. I'm angry because she was the one who originally said she'd take her own car and drop us off so she could go straight home to her kid, and we were totally fine with that plan. But we knew there was no way our managers would let us leave 45 minutes early for someone else's child. And I don't have children, but honestly, if my kid was bleeding that much, I would have called out or left early the day before and taken him to the ER. Not shown up to work and dropped the news casually on the commute home. I'm also confused and concerned at her saying that her kid could die, but yet she's scheduling a doctor's appointment instead of dropping everything and taking him straight to the ER. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to clock out early so my coworker can take her kid to the ER? Am I the a-hole for not bringing gifts to my nephew's birthdays because they never give my kids anything? I 34 female have 2 kids. Over the past few years my nephews have had several birthday parties. We've always been invited and I used to bring gifts every time. But I started noticing that when it's my kids' birthdays, their parents never bring anything or even acknowledge it. My kids don't even get a happy birthday from them. It started to feel very one-sided. Their parents, my brother and sister-in-law, are often cold and dismissive toward me and my kids. So this year I decided I wasn't going to keep doing something for people who clearly don't return the effort. I still went to the party but didn't bring any gifts. After the party, I got a bunch of texts saying I was being petty and, "You don't punish kids for adult problems." Now I'm starting to wonder if I was in the wrong, and maybe I should have separated the kids from how I feel about their parents. Bye for not bringing any gifts. Edit. For those asking, yes, we've always had birthday parties for my kids, and my brother, sister-in-law, and their children were invited every time. They attended a few over the years but never brought gifts or really acknowledged the occasion. Also, for clarification, it wasn't even my brother or SEL who texted me after the party, it was my parents. So clearly someone complained to them behind the scenes. Kind of ironic that no one said a word when my kids were the ones being overlooked for years. But the moment I stop bringing gifts, that's when it's a problem. Am I the a-hole for wanting to tell my boyfriend's mom that her son has been stealing from my business? I 25 female am really struggling with something in my relationship with my boyfriend 28 male, and I feel like I have no one to talk to about it. He has been taking money from my small business without asking. The first time it happened he told me he needed to move the money into his account for house expenses, but I later found out he just spent it. I stayed quiet to keep the peace, and after about a month he eventually put the money back. Before any of this, I suggested he get a second job since we have been talking about buying a house. He refused and said he would never do that, so I dropped it. Later, I invited him to help me with my business, which is making bouquets, and I offered to split profits with him. Recently, I discovered he had taken all of the money, both his share and mine, without telling me. When I confronted him, he got defensive, said he needed it for the house, and was rude about it. The only reason I even noticed was because the numbers were not adding up. I had already asked him not to use the money without permission, but he brushed it off and laughed like it was not serious. Now he has done it more than once, and when I brought it up again, he showed no remorse and started giving me the silent treatment. What hurts the most is that if he had simply asked me, I would have lent him the money. Instead, he is sneaky, dismissive, and makes me feel like I am wrong for questioning him. I have not told anyone about this, not even my parents, because I feel embarrassed and ashamed. But part of me really wants to call his mom and explain what has been happening, hoping she might talk some sense into him. The problem is that I know he will see it as me embarrassing him or being disrespectful by involving her in what he calls private matters. P.S. The first time he took money he asked after already taking it, he paid it back within a month. The second time he paid it back within 48 hours after I hammered on about it. He's essentially using my business as some sort credit card for his personal life without my permission. Am I the a-hole for telling my roommate I won't be changing my habits because of him bringing his friends over? I 23 male rent a house with 4 of my buddies from college. We have done this for 2 years. It helps that not only are we great friends, but we have a system of deciding house rules. A majority vote. Disagreements on cleaning? Majority vote. When to make quiet hours for the night on weeknights? Majority rules. It has kept everything flowing smoothly. Anyway, one of my friends moved out last month to get a place with his girlfriend. He found a friend of a friend to take over his room. The guy was nice enough, but then he came to us with a declaration. Apparently he was uncomfortable that we're not always completely dressed in the house. No one is a nudist, but some will sometimes not wear a shirt or just be in pajamas or boxers or underwear when lounging around the house. I admittedly am one of the 2 of us that does it the most, as I usually just lounge around in boxers or other underwear. We all met each other through a sport, so we're comfortable seeing each other like that. Anyway, I guess the new guy was caught off guard because he asked if we could constitute a clothing on rule in the house. As usual, we did a vote and the rest of us thought it was unnecessary. So there was no rule, but I did start wearing clothes more, though there were some times I didn't bother when I just woke up after showering, when I was just coming out to my room for something, etc., just to be considerate. Apparently not enough. I noticed that even though we always all gave notice before people coming over, he stopped doing so. I found myself a few times just in my underwear when he rolls in with a crew. Got a couple of weird looks, but I just excuse myself and get dressed. I told him once if he gave me a heads up I'd be dressed before they got there, but he just rolled his eyes. One of my other housemates has also run into this issue. Anyway, the other day he came to me and my other housemate and asked if his plan to shame us for never wearing clothes worked. We looked at him weird and he said that he was purposely trying to embarrass us by having people see us. We said we're not embarrassed, we work out for a reason and weren't going to change his habit. He stormed off and started smack-talking us to the other roommates. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for not paying for my brother's stepson's surgery because of why he got injured? Yes, I'm on a throwaway. I think when you read the post you'll understand why I don't want this story on my main. My brother Ben has a partner, Stacy. Stacy has a son, Jason, who is 16. Jason has always had issues with boundaries. He's, for lack of a better word, a creep, and he always has been since I met him at 5 years old. Overly physical, pushy, disrespectful. Stacy used to think it was cute that he was trying to snuggle my daughter and chasing her around trying to touch her when she said no. I told her more than once that if she didn't get her kid, then my husband was going to, and she wouldn't like that option. That's the only threat that made her ever do anything close to parenting that kid. She coddled him, and when he got bullied for the behavior she condoned, she made out it was everyone else's fault. Over the years we've seen less of Ben and Stacy as we moved further away to put my daughter in a specific school, so this really isn't an issue that touches my family regularly. When we see them at holidays I make sure my daughter knows to just give Jason a wide berth. The only reason I'm adding this context is to show a pattern of behavior. Jason has continued to have problems with boundaries. Stacy denies it, but we hear it from Ben: behavior issues, him being bullied, behavior probation, etc. Anyway, about a month ago, Jason was at a party and groped a girl in his class. He was thrown out of the party, and the girl's brother and a few of his friends followed Jason and, for lack of a better term, beat the shit out of him. Now this is one of those cases where everybody knows who did it, but nobody filmed it and nobody's talking, and these boys are well liked in school and their parents are upstanding members of the community with access to lawyers. Point is, they're not going to be able to sue the parents. Jason was left with several broken bones and one of the injuries in his leg is very severe. The medical insurance Stacy has will cover treatment, but the doctors have said the treatment will likely leave Jason with long-term pain and stiffness, limited mobility, and leaves him at risk of other conditions. There's a kind of surgery he could get which, as I understand it, would reconstruct that part of his leg, and through physical therapy he would regain full mobility. That's where I, or at least my money, would come in. Ben and Stacy are begging me to pay for it and I don't want to. Not for a kid who assaulted a girl. They're saying this decision could affect the rest of his life, but what about his victim? What he did to her could affect the rest of her life. If he doesn't learn that there are consequences to his actions, he could affect a lot of women's lives. I just don't want to be part of fixing something that he got through being an awful little creep to begin with. On the other hand, my brother is distraught. He's worried about what will happen to Jason and the whole family if he's incapacitated by this injury. He's promising to get Jason therapy if we pay for the surgery. I understand their point, especially Stacy. That's her child. He did a bad thing under the influence and now he might have a limp for the rest of his life. If that were my child, regardless of how I'd raised them, would I want them to suffer forever? I don't know. As you can see, I go back and forth on this. I just want some third-party opinions. Am I awful for thinking this is just his comeuppance and I don't want to bail him out? Addressing common questions: why am I being asked to pay for the surgery? The surgery needs to be done within a certain amount of time to be most effective. Once the bone has naturally healed, it becomes more complex and after a certain period full recovery becomes unlikely. This leaves them with less options in terms of selling off assets and appealing with the insurer. As for the GoFundMe, I don't know how you'd promote the GoFundMe when people in town know why Jason got injured. I don't imagine that would go well. Did they file a police report? Yes, they did. Jason identified the kids. But he had a concussion and the kids lawyered up. I don't think I need to explain why a small police force isn't that interested in trying to prosecute vigilante justice carried about by well-liked kids with parents who are upstanding members of the community, with ample money for legal counsel. Am I the a-hole for wanting to charge an 11-year-old for theft and destruction of property? So about a week and a half ago my son's phone was taken from his bag at primary school. I managed to track it using Find My iPhone and it led me to a house. From that house I banged on the front door and was answered by a mom. I explained that I tracked my son's phone to this house and from there discovered her son and two of his friends had just been there. She calls him and then I follow her in my car to a second kid's house. At this house all three kids are there and I tell him I don't care who stole it, just hand it back and it's done. All three kids swear black and blue that they have never seen it and know nothing about it. I exchange numbers with the mom from the first house and the dad from the second house. Then I have to leave knowing full well one of them has it. I get home and receive a call from the mom from the first house. She has checked the security cameras from her house and discovered the kid from the second house who swore that they have never had a phone is miraculously holding a phone in the footage. This has already been sent to the dad and next minute I get a message from the guilty kid's mom asking if she can come to my house. Her and her son arrive teary-eyed and apologetic. I just ask for the phone back and she shakes her head saying that he has smashed and destroyed it. It was only an iPhone XE, so not expensive, but as a single mom working full-time was my means of communication with my son. She asks if she can go buy me a phone now, but I ask if she just contributes $100 and I'll find a similar phone off Marketplace, as I prefer an iPhone as I connect it to mine and can monitor parental controls and other settings. She agrees and is happy to pay that. It has been over a week now and she has now stopped replying to any messages and won't answer any calls. Last message I sent was me saying if I didn't receive payment I would report and charge her 11-year-old son. So am I the a-hole if I charge him for theft and destruction of property? Also, as a side note, I have camera footage, admission of guilt in her text messages, and agreeing she would pay, as well as her son admitting to the school that he stole it as well. So I have enough evidence to go forward. Update. So after not responding to my messages for over a week, I messaged last night saying I was going to the police in the morning to make a report. And the money was transferred this morning. I read all the comments why I didn't report first, and it's because I guess I waited so long as I still want to think people will do the decent thing and didn't want to have to go down the police road for a minor amount as they have more important things to do. At the end of the day, though, I'm not going to raise my son to be walked all over and to stick to your word. But all sorted now. Am I the a-holes for telling my husband that I am going back on our agreement and I don't care if he cries about it? My husband and I, both 32, have been together since we were 19. Our entire relationship feels like it just blew up in my face, basically, and I can't tell if I am overreacting. So we both wanted one child, and we have planned this for years. We wanted everything perfect first. The home, the careers, the savings, the investments, the nest egg, because we both knew from very early on that once we had a baby, I would be staying home full-time and raising our child. His brother's life was unfortunately cut short by a daycare worker when he was just 5 months old, back in 2017. So daycare wasn't an option basically, and we need to make sure our ducks were in a row so I could stay home and be a full-time parent. 2 years ago we were sitting on $500,000 in investments, a few nest eggs and different types of savings and bonds accounts. We bought the house, we even bought a damn boat. Everything we planned for fell into place finally, and we started trying for a baby. We now have a perfect 4-week-old daughter. I have been out of work since I was 5 months pregnant, due to placenta abruption, but otherwise everything went fine. She's perfectly healthy, was a good weight, and I bounced back from the delivery fairly quickly because of how much of a support system my husband was. He did more than his fair share while still working full-time. Which is partially why I cannot tell if I am being dramatic or if this is hormones or PPD or whatever. Like, I am legitimately livid. So, basically, earlier this afternoon I get a phone call from DHHS to go over health insurance options and whether or not the baby is eligible for state insurance based off our income. I had already given DHHS all of our info when they called yesterday and was just waiting for all our info and assets to be pulled. Anyways, she calls and says we aren't eligible because my husband makes too much money and that we will need to add her to our private insurance. Absolutely no problem at all. I kind of figured that anyways. But then she offhandedly mentions that my husband is making $10,920 monthly gross and that the cutoff for state insurance is $7,830 monthly gross. Well, here's the issue. For months my husband has been telling me that he only makes $6,000 a month after taxes. So I get off the phone and I log into my husband's computer and into his banking, and sure enough, his monthly take-home is bordering around $8,500. He is transferring everything over $6,000 into an account I didn't even know existed. So I call him out on it and he breaks down and tells me that he just wanted something that was only his. Please keep in mind that all of my money has always gone into our joint account that he uses on a daily basis. So he is hiding money from me so he can have his own money while plugging away at mine. Over $45,000 he has sitting in that account. While telling me last week that we couldn't have steak for dinner because spending $38 on 2 steaks was a waste of money. So, I told him I am putting the baby in daycare and going back to work because obviously I need to safeguard myself if he is hiding away money. Something feels off about it, I don't care. He instantly started crying, but I truly just don't trust him financially anymore. I no longer feel secure here. I said I changed my mind and I don't care if he cries about it. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for refusing to spend Christmas at home if my sister is released from her eating disorder clinic for the holidays? My sister, 18 female, has been in an inpatient eating disorder clinic since September. This is her 3rd or 4th time doing a clinic like this. It's been 7 years of her eating disorder and it's been hell for her. Yeah, but it has also been hell for the rest of us. Ever since my sister started getting sick, she has turned into a monster toward me, 16 female. We were never BFF or anything, but I never thought she hated me like she has claimed to since the eating disorder stuff started. For years she has called me repulsive and humongous. She told me she would rather die than look like me or be my size. I'm not even overweight. My body is just shaped different to hers. She's naturally slender and doesn't have bigger curves. But I do. I developed different. To her that makes me even fatter than her, and she already thinks she's fat when she was never even a pound overweight. She was always super skinny. At her worst, and this was this year, she told me she wanted me to die because I was so fat and disgusting, and it made her rage that I was taking life away from a skinny person who deserves to be here. She actually had to be taken away from me because she was mad when she said it, and she acted like she wanted to make sure I didn't keep taking a life away from someone skinnier. When she kept trying to find me and take care of business, I had to leave the house for several hours while they called people to come and help her. I was legit afraid of her doing something to me, and so were our parents. I don't have to say anything to her for her to attack me and how I look. But to wish me dead over it was a new low, and it was how she said it and the way she was acting that made it a million times worse. My parents and my extended maternal family always expected me to be understanding and forgiving and to not hold on to any of what my sister says to me. They told me she's sick, she can't control what she says, that the eating disorder is doing the talking for her. My paternal grandparents were the ones who sided with me and defended me having some hard feelings toward my sister. They told my parents and maternal extended family the last incident should be more than enough for them to understand why I wouldn't want to be around her. My parents argued that she's still my sister. I told them I was tired of being her emotional punching bag and that I was almost more. They told me it wasn't my choice and we need to pull together as a family. My sister wrote me a letter from her clinic, and it was so fucked up I can't say what she wrote to me, but it wasn't the apology it was meant to be. My parents know about it, and so do my extended family on both sides, and so does the clinic treating my sister. It's known, and still my parents fought for my sister to be able to spend Christmas Day with us. They said she needs to be around family to help her keep healing. When I found out, I told them I couldn't believe they'd asked me to spend Christmas with her. We fought, and I told them I was going to my paternal grandparents' house and they could spend Christmas with my sister if they want. They told me I need to stay home this Christmas. I told them I won't be home if she's there and that it would be the worst Christmas for me if I had to spend it with her. My parents keep reminding me that I'm still a minor and they have final say. But my grandparents and I have planned it out so my parents can't stop it without grabbing and dragging me home. Am I the a-hole?